Meantime, AI startup Perplexity offering to buy Google's Chrome browser for $13.5 billion. Offer comes in as Google faces this regulatory scrutiny, as you know. Our next guest says Perplexity is another company trying to, quote, capitalize on Google's antitrust woes. Former FTC Commissioner Moselle Thompson's here at Post 9 to discuss. Moselle, it's good to have you back.
Good to be here.
We've been asking whether or not you think this bid is genuine, right? Or at least it comes from the right place.
Well, it's interesting. I think you have a lot of people out there trying to capitalize on the woes of others. And when you point your finger at someone, you have four more pointed back at you. It highlights the weaknesses in their own operation. They're a pretty new company, and the idea of making an offer that's almost twice as much of what their valuation is seems pretty unusual. And at the very least, it also shows that the weakness they have in getting data. They've only recently, in July, started their own search engine in order to gather more data. This company's had problems scraping data off the internet, and they have actually been sued by some pretty big companies. And what this shows is that in order to get more data, they see Chrome as a strategic asset. But in order to do that, they have to have some sort of exclusive access to Google's data.
Right. So how does it get received by the judge, do you think? Or at least how does it change the dynamics of the case, if at all?
Well, one of the challenges, and I've mentioned this before, is that things like divestiture is an unusual remedy. And in this case, where the market is changing and Google's dominance is being eroded by AI, there's a question of whether divestiture is the appropriate or most effective remedy. It could be really going after their ties, exclusive agreements with companies like Apple.
So you don't think that the judge is going to recommend a remedy to divest Chrome?
I think that I'm not sure that that is the best remedy right now. And I think most people out there, most experts think that it's unusual and may not be the appropriate one right now.
You know, speaking of Apple, I'm just curious to get your take as well on a separate story, which is Elon Musk attacking the App Store and saying it's unfairly favoring OpenAI and its ChatGPT. Is there a case to be made there by Musk?
Well, I think this is very similar to the Perplexity situation, that people are circling and trying to find out what their strategic opportunities are. But it also says more about the weakness of where Elon Musk is right now. And his XAI is not getting as much traction, even though they do have access to data through their Twitterverse. Former Twitterverse.
Yes, the X platform, of course, which they can solely use for their own training.
So they are trying to position themselves so they get more market visibility. This is one way to do it. But it's also important to remember that Apple's woes will take a long time to sort out in court. If they are sitting there trying to piggyback, if Musk is trying to piggyback on the antitrust action that the DOJ has against Apple, we're only at the earlier stages of that.
We are. Okay. Their idea, though, being that they're a gatekeeper who unfairly or is unfairly deciding who has access to a huge audience.
That's right. And don't forget, if you are pointing your finger at Apple, then people are also going to look at the relationship between XAI and X.
Meantime, what's your general sense about the direction of travel in regulation right now? Is it reaching a point where it's becoming too loose, and there'll be dangers that are concurrent with that?
I think it's unclear. One of the things that's happened is there's been a consolidation of power within the executive branch to make decisions in this area. Don't forget, at the FTC, they fired the two Democratic commissioners, and then the chairman has said that he's going to listen to what the president tells him. So does that mean, the question mark for a lot of people out there on the street, does that mean when they're involved in litigation and there's a possibility of settlement, are they going to go to the regulator in chief for an answer?
Is that not uncommon?
It's so unusual for that much power to be consolidated, especially in areas dealing with market regulation. And you talked about that earlier today in a range of issues dealing with is what is the government willing to intervene on? is there industrial policy going on here?
Right. Yeah, we talked about state capitalism. Obviously, we're still digesting the news from earlier in the week in terms of the capture of 15% of the sales of both NVIDIA and AMD chips in China, which is unique.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that I don't know many instances where the government has actually said, I want a percentage of your profit.
No, and the Treasury Secretary today said that might be a model in other areas too,
right,
beyond semis.
That's right.
So it could extend into regulatory policy as well.
Absolutely. It's not a bbig leap.
Moselle, good to see you. A lot to cover, and there's more news created every day. Moselle.
Absolutely. It's a target-rich environment.
Moments